Fairly Beloved Rabbit Care is a charity we started back in December 2010. It was my wife and myself that started it up at the time. It was primarily because we noticed there was a horrendous problem with unwanted rabbits throughout West Central Scotland, and there was nothing in place at all to cater for it, so we decided to fill that gap. We didn't have any facilities at the time, but what we decided to do was set up a foster care network, so we used volunteers in their own homes to care for the rabbits. I actually prefer the setup we've got. It wasn't originally our intention. We would have preferred to have a rescue home like any other rescue service, but the foster care network allows us to give that kind of unique home setting that we're preparing the rabbits for. So it allows them to ensure that when we are telling people what their behaviour's like, it is likely to be that when they get back home. Whereas in a traditional rescue service where they're part of a big shed perhaps, it's not as easy to identify the behaviours they're likely to exhibit when they get into a home environment.
We do two types of events mainly. The first one would be our fundraising events where we go out to garden centres, to craft fairs and to bigger events like the Highland Show. We bring some rabbits with us and try and raise some money using lucky dips and charity tins. The second type of event we do is what we're calling the Big Hop, where we go around schools and youth groups and we educate the children on proper rabbit care. Again, we bring some rabbits with us to let the children meet them in the hope that if they do have a pet rabbit or get a pet rabbit, they'll go home and tell their parents how to look after them properly.
When they come into the network, we check them for health and behavioural problems first of all and try and assess them. None of us are veterinary trained, so we've got partnerships with over 20 vets throughout the area. We pick vets that are local to each of our foster carers. So after an initial check of them, we'll place them within a foster care home. During that time, we'll socialise the rabbits and provide their day-to-day needs. When I say socialise, what we're looking at is trying to make them ready for a permanent home, get them used to human interaction and get them used to being a family pet. A lot of these rabbits have come from abandoned homes, neglected homes, they're not used to human interaction at all. So it's quite important for us to do the socialisation so that when they go to their permanent home at the end of the process, they're actually going to make a good pet for somebody. The biggest problem with for people when they get rabbits is that a lot of them don't realise that rabbits are highly sociable creatures. They should always be kept in pairs or small groups. It's really important to give them that. It's one of their basic needs. And a lot of people, when they try to put rabbits together for the first time, haven't done the research into what the process would be. The natural process for a rabbit when they first meet is to fight. They want to create a hierarchy, and it's perfectly natural and normal and necessary for them to get through that before they will happily bond together. Once they're bonded, they'll spend 90% of their time in body-to-body contact, they'll groom each other, and there is no way you could ever split them up again. But the process itself is quite scary. So we provide a bonding service to do that for people because we've done a lot of these already. We understand the rabbit's behaviour and we know what to expect. So we can be comfortable about bringing them together in a safe environment and then allow them to go back to their home as a happy bonded pair.
At Bunnyville, we have a big shed and we facilitate a lot of rabbits. We have a similar setup to the Warren at Lenzie, where we've got lots of hutches and then runs for the rabbits to go in. A lot of our foster carers have the same kind of setup, big massive hutches for the rabbits to have plenty of space and then runs so they can get out individually as well. Without foster carers, Fairly Beloved could not exist. Between myself and David and Fiona, our facilities aren't big enough to facilitate the amount of rabbits we have to deal with. So the foster carers ensure that we can look after a lot more rabbits than we could on our own. The rabbits do take up a lot of my time. The basic necessities are feeding and watering and cleaning. But on top of this, they need a lot of attention, they need groomed, they need cuddled, they need health checks. So they do take up a good few hours of my day every day, more so when I've got days off and care assistants around to help when they get a lot more time spent than they do on a day-to-day basis. We need the volunteers to help us with events, with fundraising, with all sorts of aspects, photography, administration. If they weren't here, there's just not enough hours in the day for us to do what we do. I decided to change my name to Bunny because my husband called me Bunny as a pet name. He decided one night when we were bored it'd be really funny to change it for charity. I said to him at the time, well, if I change my name to Bunny, you need to get a tattoo of a rabbit with Bunny written underneath it. But he decided to go ahead with the tattoo, so I had to go ahead with changing my name. We got a bit of interest in the papers and we decided that Our next step would be when we got married, Morgan would wear a giant bunny costume. So when I walked down the aisle, it was to one giant big white rabbit.
I've got big ambitions for Fairly Beloved Rabbit Care as it moves forward. We want to continue to grow. We want to bring on lots more volunteers. A big aspect of what we do is not just the rescue service, but we do a lot of awareness and education. So we've got campaigns where we go out into the community. We go to organised community events like galas and fairs and fetes and things. And we also try to get into schools, nurseries, community groups, youth groups and so forth, and try and correct people's understanding of rabbits. So rabbits are the third most popular pet in Britain, but because they haven't been given the same level of research as our other pets, they're still the most abandoned, most neglected and most misunderstood pet. So we want to correct a lot of the myths that are out there about diet, about the amount of space that rabbits need, and make sure that we create a much better welfare situation for rabbits within West Central Scotland. There is always a much bigger demand for rescue service than we could ever cater for. So we will always take rabbits when we can and when we've got space. When we don't have any space available, we operate a waiting list. So we'll never turn anybody away. We'll always help people with rehoming options, even if we can't provide the rehoming service straight away. And as soon as a space becomes available, we'll get back in touch with them and bring them in. Regardless of health, regardless of behaviour, regardless of circumstances, we'll not turn down a rabbit. If we can help, we will help.